So the results are in. Do I have a new favorite set of earplugs? For the last couple of months, I've been testing out 3 new loop earplug products, plus a new contender into the mix that came completely out of left field. So in this video, I'll go through the pros and cons of using all 4 of these options in different combinations. I'll share my surprising new personal favorite, and hopefully you'll get some good ideas that you might like to try as well. Hi everyone, Paul Micallef here from Autism from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So as some of you know, I've been a big proponent of earplugs for a long time now. Ever since my high school days, I've been using different forms of earplugs in different settings. But these days I'm finding I'm using them more and more to the point that I don't leave home without them. So late last year, I got 3 new loop earplug products. So I've had a number of months now, including over the Christmas and New Year period, to test them out in daily life and see what I think. And I feel like I've settled on a pretty strong favorite combination. So just as a quick recap, we had the traditional quiet loops that were just by themselves as a little earbud that I can put in. So this was my previous favorite. The second one that I was testing is the Switch 3-in-1, which has 3 little settings that you can kind of change to adjust the sound level. And the third one is the Loop Link, which is essentially a thing that can go around your neck like this, and it has a little magnet, and so you can keep your little earplugs around your neck. I initially suspected that this one might be my favorite because I used to have these ones were my really old ones, and I used to really love having them around my neck like this. And it meant that anytime I wanted, I could just sort of put them in or take them out, and it was really easy in that sense. So very recently though, a 4th contender has come into the mix from a little bit of a left field position, which are these. Quite different to all the others. They're basically massive industrial strength earmuffs. And so I've been throwing them into the mix as well in the testing. So what do you think? Do I have a new favorite? What is your bet as to which one of these 4 products or which combination of these 4 products do you think I am finally leaning towards as naming as my favorite? I don't think you'll be able to guess, but I'll be really curious to see if anyone is able to actually guess correctly. Okay, so let's get stuck into the review. So I might start with the Switch because, as I mentioned in a previous video, I've been using the quiet ones for quite some time, and so they were already my favorite. And so what I was really trying to see is how much do I appreciate the new 3-in-1 facility with the new Switch. So the concept is that you can just manually in real time switch how much noise reduction I want in any given situation. And I tested them at a few different types of events. I tested them in cafes and at family gatherings, especially over Christmas, where there's lots of people and there's food and noisy plates and conversation and things like that. And what I found is that I personally didn't really use this actual 3-in-1 switching thing very much myself. One of the things I love about the quiet ones that I'd already been using is that once they're in, I just forget about them, like completely out of my consciousness for hours at a time. Whereas doing that kind of defeats the purpose of the Switch because if I don't actually manually change it, then I'm not actually getting the benefit of trying to adjust it to each particular situation. So I did do a couple of experiments to figure out which noise level reduction I preferred the most. And actually what I found is I didn't really notice all that much of a difference. Some people might be a lot more sensitive for me and prefer one over the other. Whereas for me, once the earplugs are in, I completely forget about it, and the impact of the noise and the impact of all of this extra stimuli has kind of an unconscious effect on me. This is one of the reasons that I didn't realize for such a long time how beneficial earplugs were for me, because I would go into a situation and it would be a little bit too loud and I would just say, well, it's fine, I guess. It's a little bit uncomfortable. But then after a little while, I would just forget and hours would go by and I wouldn't realize how much of an impact it was having on me. So when I use the switch at the lowest setting, I still subjectively feel roughly the same, except I am getting more input than I would otherwise. And when I use it on the maximum setting, again, I still feel roughly the same, except it's actually blocking more noise and I can probably last longer in that situation. They were also slightly less comfortable than my original loops. Like these original ones, they're really squishy. They're basically really soft silicone everywhere, which means if I have them in, I could have it in for hours. And I'm talking like 8 to 10 to 12 plus hours at a time. And I wouldn't even notice it. I would literally completely forget that I had them in, which is a bonus for me. Whereas with the switch, it's made of a slightly harder plastic, and I found it's pretty comfortable for the first, 3 or 4 hours, which is pretty good overall. But again, for me personally, the thing I appreciate the most is being able to just forget about it completely, so I don't want to have to be thinking about when I'm going to need to take them out. That said, if you are someone who really appreciates being able to open it up so that you can hear people just that little bit better, then you're probably going to like the option of being able to leave them in and still get some noise reduction without needing to take them out entirely. Okay, so the next thing I tried was this link, which can go around your neck and basically means that I can have my earplugs around my neck at all times. And again, what I found personally is this is not really how I use my earplugs. If I'm in a situation that's noisy, then I would prefer to have them in 100% of the time. And I'm not really likely to take them in, take them out, change the settings, think about it too much and kind of try and maximize the exact level of how much I can hear. So this would be really, really helpful if there was ever any need to quickly take out your earplugs so that you could hear someone better. But what I found is I just never need to do that. In other words, when I have the traditional quiet ones in, I can basically still hear, and again, this is a personal preference for me, but I can still hear everything in my surrounding just as good, if not better, than if I didn't have them in. And what that means is I don't personally find there are any situations that come up where I think, oh, I need to take them out and listen to someone now. Because actually, I just leave them in for hours and hours and hours at a time and just forget about them entirely. Also, because the carry case is so small, I literally have it in my pocket at all times, which means if there is any need to take them out, then I can take them out, pop them actually in the carry case, satisfying click, and put them in my pocket. And that's a little bit harder than just taking them and dropping them around my neck. It also means that they're safe, put away, secure in my pocket. They're not going to get tangled. I don't need to worry about them. And if I need them out again, it takes maybe 15 seconds to take them out of my pocket and put them back in. Again, I personally didn't find there was a huge advantage to having the link around my neck. But again, I can imagine that if you're the kind of person who likes to have a lot of control of taking them in and out and making sure there's no barrier there, then you might appreciate them a lot more. So 1 second, sorry to interrupt. I have to tell you this story. So as I mentioned, the switch ones don't really suit me personally, the way I used my earplugs. So I decided to give them to a friend of mine, and it turns out she really, really loved it. So the difference all came down to the way we each personally use earplugs. So she actually already had a pair of loops that she loved, but she was constantly taking them in and out in different situations. For example, oh, I'm going to boil the kettle in the kitchen. That's a little bit loud. I'll put it in. Oh, someone's talking to me. I'll take out one ear and try and listen to them. Oh, there's a train going past. It's right now. I don't have time to put in my earplugs, so I'll just cut my ears with my hands. So in that highly variable setting, having the different options on the switch actually came in really handy. She noticed a significant difference between the quiet and the engage, meaning having it on the lowest setting made it a lot easier to have a conversation with someone, which means we were walking down the street with the lowest level engage setting. We could have a conversation. It was easy for her to hear my voice. And at the same time, a noisy train went by and it didn't hurt. She also, and I'll show you this neat little trick, came up with a different way to wear them. So I was just wearing them sort of around my neck like this, but she found doing this meant that it looked like a little necklace, and then you could kind of put one ear in and the other ear in, and it kind of looks a little bit different. And then when they come out, they just sort of sit here, and they're not too far away from your ears either, if you ever just need to pick them up and put them in. So that was really exciting. Really loved them. Except, unfortunately, we lost one. Very sad face. So you have to be really careful with clothes because this can come out, and if it gets caught in clothes, then it might come out, and we actually lost one, which is very, very sad. We'll probably have to replace it now, which is obviously not ideal. So make sure, especially if you're using the link to, that you're just careful about the ends getting caught in clothing, because the last thing you want is to accidentally lose one of your new favorite earplugs. So that was someone else's experience, quite different to mine. I hope you found that valuable, and let's get back to the video. Okay, finally, the wildcard entry. I got these on Amazon for not very much. They are literally just industrial strength earmuffs, and they are a quite different experience. So there's a few things that are obviously different. I mean, they are very noticeable. I mean, you could probably see this from 20 meters away, 100 meters away. So compared to the tiny little, absolutely invisible loops that you can't even see at all from straight on, these are very conspicuous and will make you stand out. So if you're going to wear something like that, you obviously have to take that as a given. That said, the experience of having them on is radically different to any in-ear earplugs that I've ever used. Firstly, these ones seriously muffle the sound and do make it a little bit more challenging if you're trying to talk to people. But at the same time, they also radically block out some entire frequencies. So for example, the other day, there was some roadworks happening outside my house, and there was like drilling and scratching, and I think they were breaking up the concrete and things like that. And when I put these on, I literally couldn't hear it at all. So loops are fantastic for reducing the intensity of the sound and still being able to hear the sound. But if you want to block something out completely, then you absolutely can't go past something like this. So I wasn't really expecting these to be as useful as I have started to come to realize they are. But when I put these on, okay, so let me give you an example. When I use my quiet loops in a noisy cafe, it goes from being uncomfortable to comfortable. I'm in a noisy cafe and it's comfortable and I can hear everyone and I can talk and everything's fine. When I put these on, I feel like I'm in the next room to a noisy cafe and the door is shut and I can kind of hear it, but it's not even in the same room. So what I've taken to doing is actually using the loop as normal and these over the top. And what that means is I can have a basically almost entirely quiet zone out time in the middle of a really noisy environment, which means I don't need to escape somewhere to a quiet place. I can literally just put these on and close my eyes and block out basically the entire world without having to go anywhere, without having to remove myself from the situation. And initially, when I first got them, I was imagining that I might use them in some extreme situations, but actually I've started carrying them in my bag literally everywhere I go. If I go to the supermarket, for example, I put these on and I can't hear the annoying supermarket music at all. I can be in the middle of a crowd and feel like I'm on my own. Anyway, so for how relatively cheap and nasty something like this is, I mean, it's clearly not exactly fashionable, right? It's massive, but other than being extremely conspicuous, I have actually come to really appreciate it and use it more and more and more and more. And it's actually a really interesting experience to be in public and to deliberately be wearing them, knowing full well that this is like a broadcast to everyone in the vicinity that I am having trouble with the noise and that I find the noise to be uncomfortably loud, and I am taking some reasonably extreme measures to mitigate against that. And as someone who has passed for neurotypical basically my whole life in most situations, it's been a really interesting journey to learn to show up in a really obviously, deliberately, hey everyone, I'm autistic kind of way, without having to disclose and without having to tell anyone, or have any other verbal sign. It's just really obvious when I have these huge things on my ears that I have some special needs that others around me don't have. So anyway, in summary, do I have a new favorite set of earplugs? Kind of. I still really love the classic loop quiet. They are definitely by far my preferred choice in almost every situation. I would definitely not leave home without them. However, the surprising runner-up, which I'm actually even more excited about, so maybe it is my favorite even though it's not the one I use the most, is having these and actually using them over the top of these loops. So I would have the loop in first, and then I would have these on the top afterwards. And yeah, I'm really in love with that new option. So I'm going to go with that is my new favorite, and I'd be really curious to hear if anyone guessed that from the beginning. If that's you, congratulations. I don't know what you were thinking, but you managed to pick the right answer. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today. We've gone through the Switch 3-in-1, the Link, which is the around the neck one, the classic loop. I use the quiet ones, but there's also Engage and Experience if you want slightly less decibel reduction, plus the massive industrial over-ear earmuffs. So I'm really curious to hear what you use. Do you use any of the products that I mentioned? Do you use something else? What is your favorite combination? And if you have never tried earplugs before, I would highly recommend see how much of a difference it makes. I have constantly been surprised. If you told me a couple of months ago that I'd be going shopping using these on a weekly basis, I probably would not have believed you, but it's made an absolutely massive difference. So I'm interested to hear your experience. Please leave a comment if you can. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Check out the description if you'd like 10% off any of the Loop products mentioned today. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you again next week. Bye.